We're pleased to be able to host this meeting in person and excited to report. Anyone have a good guess on how many registrants we had at this event? 600, pretty close. This is our second to the most registrants we've ever had, and that's 650. So thank you so much to all of you for joining us today. I'd also like to point out this session is being webcast live, and I'm pleased to welcome all of our online audience to today's opening general session. And I'd like to thank GHSA member Audi for their assistance with the webcast. So whether you're watching online or you're in the room, we'd like you to please tweet what you learned today using hashtag GHSA 2022. And for those of you here in Louisville, as you attend the workshops this morning and over the next few days, we expect some of them may be at capacity. Sorry about that. And if that's the case, it's not a problem. If a session's full, we encourage you to try another. All of the workshops are designed to provide you with the tools and knowledge that you can implement in your state or your community. Now, I'm leading today's opening session as chair of the GHSA Executive Board. Our former association chair, Chuck DeWeese, who is Assistant Commissioner of the New York Governor's Traffic Safety Committee, has departed government service. Many of us have known Chuck for a long time, and I want to acknowledge his considerable contributions to highway safety and to GHSA. Many of our accomplishments in the past year are due to Chuck's leadership. We will miss his thoughtfulness and honesty, and we wish him well in his new endeavors. So Chuck, we'd love you to stand and be recognized. There he is. During the past 12 months, we all experienced tremendous challenges, but there have also been remarkable achievements as well. We've continued our close partnership with NHTSA and the US DOT, and this administration has launched new national efforts to advance highway safety. During the past year, US Congress finalized an infrastructure bill that increases annual investment in all highway safety programs and incorporates a number of GHSA recommended policy changes. We continued and expanded our partnerships with private sector organizations, enabling GHSA to award highway safety grants to many states to address impaired driving, distracted driving, speeding by teen drivers, and other persistent issues. We're also continuing our efforts to achieve more equitable outcomes in highway safety programs, even while ensuring that we can continue to conduct traffic enforcement that we know discourages unsafe driving and saves lives. We have multiple sessions addressing equity and engagement, and I hope that you'll take advantage of the opportunity to discuss this important aspect of highway safety with your colleagues throughout the meeting. This afternoon, we will welcome the National Law Enforcement veteran, Bill Bratton, to discuss the past, present, and future of law enforcement and traffic operations. And on that note, how many current or retired law enforcement do we have in attendance today? Please stand, if you would. Thank you. We appreciate all you do to protect and serve. We look forward to working closely with you and all your partners to ensure the safety of all road users. The meeting theme this year is traffic safety in a changing world. There's no doubt that we continue to face substantial transition in just about every aspect of our personal and professional lives. But some things have changed for the worse. NHTSA has projected that 42,915 people died in 2021 in motor vehicle traffic crashes.
Everyone.
You didn't know I was a ventriloquist, did you? This is a 10% increase over 2020 and the largest number of fatalities since 2005. I know this is reflected in each state's individual numbers as well. And to meet this challenge, Highway safety planners nationwide are adopting the safe system approach to highway safety. We should all be excited about this proven approach that can be implemented to reverse this troubling traffic safety trend. GHSA released a report last December titled Putting the Pieces Together that explains how we can and should fit in behavioral highway safety programs into this approach. Tomorrow morning, we'll host a general session on the safe system. The focus will be on working more collaboratively to advance actions that can help mitigate crashes and save lives. A significant part of the increase in fatalities is due to an ongoing crisis in pedestrian safety. And earlier this year, GHSA, with the help of the state highway safety offices, documented the ongoing increase in pedestrian fatalities in our annual Spotlight report and a subsequent addendum released earlier this year. Also this year, GHSA, the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety and the National Road Safety Strategy announced the first results of a speed management pilot program in Maryland showing how an interdisciplinary approach to speeding can lead to positive safety outcomes. Speeding is not only deadly for motorists, but pedestrians and bicyclists too. One of GHSA's other major efforts over the last year has been our partnership with GM to issue a national status report on distracted driving. Just like speeding, we face challenges reforming the traffic safety culture around distraction. But there are many steps that states and their partners can take to advance this effort. And I'm looking forward to the general session tomorrow when a panel of national experts will discuss the report's findings and where we need to go from here. Considering that almost half of all the fatal crashes occur on rural roads, GHSA released a report on rural road safety on September 1st, with funding from our long-term partners at State Farm. This is GHSA's first ever look at this problem and the challenges unique to rural communities. And I hope you will join us for our Wednesday morning general session when a panel of our rural experts will help us determine how and best to address this dynamic. The traffic safety world indeed continues to change and evolve, but that has provided our community the opportunity to look at safety challenges in a new and innovative way, to launch new and promising programs and forge new partnerships. Speaking of partnerships, one of our strongest partners has been responsibility.org, which since 2016 has provided almost $1 million to states in grants to prevent impaired driving. GHSA's executive director, Jonathan Atkins, is also chair of responsibility.org's latest initiative, the National Alliance to Stop Impaired Driving. And many of you have had the opportunity to attend NACID's second annual conference this summer in Washington, D.C. We're also excited to have leadership here from the Ford Motor Company Fund. GHSA has had an exceptionally strong relationship with Ford for the past 2 decades to advance novice driver safety. I know that everyone in the GHSA community learned last year that Jim Graham was departing his role as Global Program Manager for Ford Driving Skills for Life. The feeling was bittersweet. We're of course excited for Jim, but sad for the loss of such an incredible leader in highway safety. The Ford Driving Skills for Life program began in 2003 and continues today as a free, hands-on advanced driver training to newly licensed drivers in every state. Jim was there at the beginning, and for the past 2 decades has led Ford's Driving Skills for Life program to evolve to address emerging issues, incorporate new kinds of training and training techniques, and even transitioning to virtual programming during the pandemic. Significant for the state highway safety offices, Jim was also instrumental in launching GHSA's first competitive state grant program under Ford Driving Skills for Life, a model that has been expanded to provide millions of dollars of private sector philanthropy directly into state and local highway safety initiatives. Jim has also helped bring top-notch speakers to help make GHSA's annual meeting such a great success and help the behavioral highway safety community better partner with the auto industry. Jim is the 2019 winner of the GHSA Catherine J.R. Swanson Public Service Award. This year, we have elected to award Jim the GHSA's 2022 Chairs Award, which is given periodically at the GHSA Chair's discretion to distinguish individuals who demonstrate unparalleled commitment to GHSA and our mission. Clearly, Jim has accomplished a lifetime achievement in preparing several generations of new drivers, saving lives, and preventing crashes on our nation's roads. We thank him for his service, and we wish him all the best in the future. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage the winner of the GHSA 2022 Chairs Award, Jim Graham.
Thank you, everybody. Barbara, Jonathan, the entire GHSA executive team, I am honored to get this award on behalf of Ford Motor Company Fund and Ford Driving Skills for Life. It's truly a team award. If you look back to 2003, I think you'll see a good example of a partnership. I had no highway safety experience whatsoever when we launched Driving Skills for Life. We needed an organization to go to that was well connected, and that was the Governor's Highway Safety Association. Jonathan, Barbara Harsha, some of the early Vern Becky, people like that, they opened doors for us like no other organization, introduced us to the states, the territories, the key players, you know, SAD, FCCLA, groups like that, that were very important to us because they represented teams and we were doing team safe driving. So I think it's been a great partnership over the 18 years I was involved with it. And I think it's just an excellent example of how a partnership should work. I know when GHSA wanted to do something, we were always there and always tried to say yes to everything they ask us for. So I'm just very happy. I'm very pleased to work with Jonathan and Barbara and a whole host of people. Chuck, congratulations, Chuck. I know you're moving on to a different direction, but it's been an excellent partnership. And I want to just have our team stand up here if they can. I know we have some people over here. Joe Provenzano is our new head. Joe, where are you at? Where's you at, Joe? Over there. Okay, over there. There's Joe. Joe is an expert on mobility too, and you know we talked about moving into different directions, and Joe's going to be the new leader, and Melissa's here and the whole team. But this is an award for the whole team, and I just want to say thanks on behalf of the team. It's been a great partnership. Barbara, thank you so much for giving me this award. Okay.
Thank you, Jim. You are an inspiration to us all, and I'm glad that we've gathered here in person this week to discuss what more we can all do to reverse this troubling trend and move fatalities and injuries towards zero. One group that has helped make GHSA's 2022 annual meeting a reality is our hosts, the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet. So let's give them a big round of applause. To officially welcome us to the Bluegrass State, I am pleased to introduce Jason Zuwula, Executive Director for the Office of Project Development for the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet and Acting Executive Director of the Kentucky Office of Highway Safety. Welcome, Jason.
All right, good morning. Now, I've had a lot of you, I've walked around, I've talked to a lot of folks, and I've had a lot of folks say, oh, you know, thank you for hosting. Well, what I can tell you is that and I talked to Jonathan about this morning, you know, he said a good leader knows when to get out of the way. So my staff, the GHSA staff, All of the sponsors, all of the exhibitors have done a really great job of allowing us to bring all of this together. And I'd like to have a giant hand for all of those folks that are working the conference to make this possible for us. So I'm blessed to have been in the position to lead the Kentucky Office of Highway Safety for just over 4 years now. And I recently have accepted a new challenge, and I'm still working with the Office of Highway Safety as well. And it is our honor and privilege to welcome you to Louisville. Just by show of hands, how many people were here 5 years ago when we hosted last? Okay, so a good number. And we're excited to have you back, but I'm even more excited to welcome new folks, new partners to Kentucky. I lost count of how many times Barbara said partnerships, which means that there probably was more than 10. I struggle to count higher than that for some reason. And when we talk about partnership and opportunity, that's what this association, that's what this meeting, and that's what these communities that are a part of GHSA provide. Opportunities for us to invest in our communities and our people and our partners to improve safety. And when we look at those opportunities, there are so many things that we're thankful for. We know that we have made progress, but there is much left to do. Here in Kentucky, we're really excited that over the last several years, we've gotten additional state funds to be able to implement our strategic highway safety plan, looking at many of the things that we're looking at here at the conference and trying to utilize those funds to not only increase our partnerships, but to draw new partners in and to work with folks that we haven't been able to connect with in the past. And so as you're here at the conference, I would encourage you to talk to people that you wouldn't normally have the opportunity to interact with. That's the power of having 650 people at this conference. And so as you're here, please make sure that you're enjoying not only Louisville and you're enjoying the conference, but get to know folks that you wouldn't have had the opportunity to meet except through this conference, except through this venue, and utilize those opportunities to learn, listen to understand. There's a lot of different things, and all working together is how we are going to make a difference here for highway safety. We're going to hear from some of the titans of this industry, and I'm going to ask for one more show of hands. So if you've been at this meeting or if you worked highway safety for more than 15 years, could I just get a show of hands, please? Okay, now a lot more hands there. And I want to tell everybody here, the reason why that's important is because there's a lot of experience in here for us to learn from and to draw on. Now, if you weren't one of those folks that raised your hand, you're very important, because as we're talking about traffic safety in a changing world, new ideas, new partnerships, safe systems, that's how we're going to get to where we ultimately want to go. Looking here in Kentucky, we're fortunate that we're on track to have our best year as far as highway fatalities in the last 5 years. But as of this morning, 473 deaths have been reported, and that's 473 too many. 191 of those were unrestrained. We have a lot of opportunity in a state where we have almost 90% observed seatbelt rate, 56% of folks dying in vehicle crashes as occupants unrestrained. Lots of opportunities, 58 pedestrians, 6 bicyclists, 80 alcohol related, all topics that we are going to cover here at GHSA, all topics that we have opportunity to save lives, to prevent tragedies. Because when it comes down to it, safety isn't about numbers. Safety is about people. Safety is about individuals. And we don't know who our message is going to impact. We don't know the people who are saved. We only have the opportunity in most cases to mourn those who are lost. And so I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for what you do each day. And I want to encourage you that as a part of this conference, learn something here, take it back to your people, to your communities, make a difference. Every one of those losses prevented, every life that is saved by the work of the folks in this room means a lot to a lot of people. And so I thank you very much for what you do. and I'll turn it back over to Barbara. Thank you. I'm so sorry. I made a mistake. So the actually, as you heard, the governor actually tried to break in several times to talk to us while Barbara was here. So I apologize. Our governor was not able to be here this morning. We have had some really terrible disasters and calamities, and has really kept the administration busy helping people. And I know that we already recognize law enforcement. I want to thank the first responder community for all of the assistance that we've had during both our devastating tornadoes from December of 2021 and our historic devastating flooding of 2022 in Eastern Kentucky. We're so thankful for those partnerships, and the governor offers his welcome in this video next.
Hello, everyone. I'm Governor Andy Beshear, and on behalf of the Commonwealth, I am proud to welcome you to the 2022 annual meeting of the Governor's Highway Safety Association. This is such an important group of leaders. You are charged with protecting the safety and well-being of families, not just in Kentucky, but across our country. It doesn't matter if it's a major interstate or a rural road. These are the routes our families rely on to get to and from school, work, church, the grocery, pharmacy, and more. Not only that, but these are roadways that fuel our economy. So it's critical we invest, and now is the time. That's why I've made investing in our infrastructure a priority, and will continue to do so as long as I am governor. From funding transportation improvements across our Commonwealth to ensuring our crews have the support needed to respond to natural disasters, Team Kentucky is working to make highway safety a priority. I know meetings like this one allow us to work together and make progress across our country. So I want to thank each of you for being here today and taking part in these important discussions. And thank you for your dedication to the safety and well-being of all of our people. Enjoy the conference, and make sure to get out and enjoy Louisville too. Thanks for being here, and thanks for making a difference.
How wonderful. Thank you so much, Jason and Governor Beshear. We really appreciate that. Over the next few days, you will see staff from the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet staffing the registration desk, monitoring workshop rooms, and checking name badges. They're also standing by to answer your questions and help you make the most of your time here in Louisville. Every day, they're going to be wearing a matching polo shirt, and today's color is black. So please feel free to reach out to any one of them. All right, well, we're going to move on, and I have to tell you, this is an enormous pleasure for me to introduce our next speaker. She spent a great deal of time with our members yesterday, extremely gracious, very generous with her time, and it was just a thrill to get such personal time with her yesterday. So I have the pleasure of introducing Ann Carlson, who is NHTSA's acting administrator. Ann oversees the nation's vehicle and traffic safety agency, NHTSA, that sets vehicle safety standards, identifies safety defects, and manages recalls, and educates Americans to help them drive, ride, and walk safely. NHTSA's work also includes establishing fuel economy regulations for cars and trucks, and helping facilitate the testing and deployment of advanced vehicle technologies. Carlson previously served as NHTSA's chief counsel, where she played a critical role overseeing the agency's historic and unprecedented actions to advance its safety mission, including issuing a first of its kind standing general order requiring timely reporting of critical safety data related to vehicles equipped with automated driving systems and advanced driver assistance systems, initiating formal rulemaking to require automatic emergency braking AEB and pedestrian AEB in light and heavy duty vehicles, and securing a 50%, I'm going to repeat that, 50% increase in funding and staffing resources for the agency under the bipartisan infrastructure law. She was instrumental in ensuring the recent publication of NHTSA's notice of proposed rulemaking implementing the new state highway safety programs under the bipartisan infrastructure law, a critical first step in guiding upcoming state planning efforts and life-saving activities nationwide. Before joining NHTSA, Carlson served on the faculty at the UCLA School of Law. Please join me in welcoming Acting Administrator Ann Carlson.
Keep trying to figure out what my walk-on song should be. Baby, you can drive my car. Seems so obvious. Thank you so much, Barbara. Those were really kind words, and I really enjoyed spending time yesterday with a number of GHSA state representatives. We had a really good conversation, and you know, one of the things about those conversations is that we at NHTSA learn a lot from you. This is a 2 or 3 or 10-way street, and so it really was a pleasure yesterday. And thank you also to Jonathan for this great conference, for inviting me to be here. For those of you who don't know, this is my officially my second week on the job and my first public address to a really large audience. So I'm really thrilled to be here, and I'm really honored to step into the role of acting administrator. Also, thank you to our conference organizers. This is really phenomenal. It's also a little jarring to be with so many people in person, but so fun and lovely and so different than seeing people on screens. So it's really, really fantastic to be in person, to meet a lot of people I haven't actually met in person, even though I've seen a number of people on, in their avatars and in fake life. It's good to be back in real life. It's also my first time in Kentucky. I'm a huge baseball fan, so the Louisville Slugger is of particular interest to me, along with Bluegrass and Muhammad Ali, who actually lived in a neighborhood very close to where I live in Los Angeles after he retired. And of course, Kentucky is the Bluegrass state, the Bourbon state, all sorts of great things. I wish I had more time to explore some of that. Jason already acknowledged, and I want to acknowledge the many Kentuckians who are struggling after the once-in-a-thousand-year flood that hit Eastern Kentucky last month. At least 39 people lost their lives, and I know the cleanup continues. I know the governor has been extraordinarily busy really trying to get Kentucky back kind of up on its feet. Our thoughts are with everyone who is affected, and our thanks also, as Jason had said, go out to the first responders. During the tragedy, of course, transportation was affected, infrastructure was affected. A number of roads and bridges were damaged or washed out and cut off whole communities. So thanks also to the Kentucky transportation professionals who are helping to restore those vital connections to ensure that people have access to schools, to jobs, to grocery shopping, to medical care, to all the things we need and use transportation for. And to all the Kentuckians who have come together to help their families and their friends and their neighbors, our gratitude goes out to you. So as I already said, it's an honor to be here representing the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. I do also want to give a shout out to all the folks from NHTSA who are here. I think it is a demonstration of how important GHSA is to us to see so many folks here, including some who are participating on the panels over the next couple of days. This is a really important relationship, and we learn a lot being here as well. So as many of you have heard, Administrator Stephen Cliff stepped down effective September 10th to join the California Air Resources Board as its executive director. We were really sad to see Steve go. I will say, as a Californian, the California Air Resources Board is the most important environmental and air pollution agency probably in the world. And I can't think of anybody who's better to be at the helm of that agency than Steve. So it's NHTSA's loss, but it's very much California's gain. And honestly, it's the environment's gain. And I'm honored to be able to step up from the role of Chief Counsel, to serve as the acting administrator. I do want to say that I am committed to continuing the priorities and the work that we've already done. I've had the privilege of working side by side with Dr. Cliff from the start of his tenure. And I've been involved, I think as Barbara described, in virtually all aspects of the agency since I began at NHTSA in January of 2021. And as for my priorities as acting administrator, safety is always number one at NHTSA. It will continue to be. It's at the heart of everything we do. And we address safety in many ways. We're going to talk about some of those, but I just want to highlight some right here. From vulnerable road users, you heard the statistics about pedestrians and cyclists in Kentucky. I'll share some more with you in a moment. From public education to vehicle defects, from risky driving behavior to EMS and 911 services, a part of NHTSA that people don't always focus on, but one that's really, really important to the safe system approach, which again, Barbara and Jason have addressed, and I will say a bit more about. Every decision we make is designed to focus on saving lives on our roads. So Barbara's already highlighted the FARS numbers, but I'm going to repeat them and then share some new information with you. I don't have to tell anybody in this room that this is an incredibly challenging time in traffic safety. You've all seen it firsthand in your communities, although kudos to Kentucky for having its best year in 5 years. I think that's an outlier, I'm sad to say. As life starts to return to normal, the fatality trends we first saw in 2020 remain a crisis. That is not the new normal we want. As Barbara said, and I'll just repeat, NHTSA projects that an estimated 42,915 people died in crashes last year. People, those are people, not numbers. That's a 10.5% increase from 2020. And it's, as has already been said, but I'll just emphasize, it's the highest number of traffic fatalities since 2005. It's also the largest annual percentage increase in the history of our fatality analysis reporting system. We are estimating increases in fatalities in 2021 in 46 states and jurisdictions in 2021 compared to 2020. We've also, and I think you're all very familiar with this, seen an increase in risky driving behaviors, including speeding, impairment, and not using a seatbelt. There's also, and again, as Barbara said, and I want to emphasize because this is really, really important, there are startling increases in fatalities involving vulnerable road users. Pedestrian deaths were up 13% in 2021, so that's a bigger increase than overall crashes. And of course, distracted driving remains a constant concern. So here's the hot off the press news. We're going to release Q2 FARS data this morning. It may already be released. We've got a press release going out, and the numbers will be on our website. Our early estimates for the first half of 2022 project that 20,175 people died in motor vehicle traffic crashes during the first 6 months. That's an increase of about 100 fatalities when compared to the first half of last year. Okay. You know, over the past couple of years, our data releases have become a grim ritual of bad and worsening news. But there is a ray of hope in today's data for the first time in quite a while. While the overall number for the first 6 months worsened by that small margin of 100, but again, that's 100 people, the most recent 3 months for the first time saw a decrease in fatalities, first time in a long time. So the second quarter of 2022 saw the first decline in fatalities after 7 consecutive quarters of increases that started with third quarter of 2020. So, you know, right smack in the middle of the beginning of the pandemic. We also, on the good news front, saw a small decline in the fatality rate per 100 million miles driven in the second quarter from 1.34 to 1.27. We hope this is the beginning of a trend in the right direction. Because these are early estimates, we don't have specifics about causes yet, but we do know something about potential solutions. It will take a combination of factors, including education, enforcement, vehicle design and technology, and infrastructure improvements to drive these numbers down. So I've just thrown a lot of numbers out, and even with the small improvements from Q1, none of those numbers are good. That's because, and you know, I know many people say it, but I just think we need to emphasize it over and over again. Every number represents a life lost. Every number represents a family shattered. It can be really easy just to think about these numbers as an abstraction. And sometimes I worry that we just get numb to the numbers, right? Just every year, 38, 39, 40, 41,000 people die. But these numbers represent real people, and they represent real lives and real families that are destroyed. Secretary Buttigieg has said this is a crisis. We all need to work together to try to save lives. So one of the things that we're trying to do is rethink how we think about our approach to traffic safety to really try to shake up the status quo and embrace solutions like the safe system approach. So let me say a little bit more about it. And many of you are very familiar with it, but I do want to highlight many of its features. So the safe system approach is holistic. It looks at all the factors in traffic fatalities and proposes solutions that address both short and long-term objectives. The safe system approach is people-focused. For example, infrastructure, including roads and emergency services, is designed and maintained to serve users' needs. The safe system approach is also equitable. It considers the needs of everyone on the road, not just drivers and passengers, but pedestrians, cyclists, children, motorcyclists, older Americans, and people with disabilities. So everyone in the transportation sector should be considering the 5 key principles of the National Roadway Safety Strategy, which incorporates the safe system approach. That's safer people, safer roads, safer vehicles, safer speeds, and post-crash care. That's that 9/11 EMS part of NHTSA's responsibilities. All of these elements need to be part of our focus for our transportation system to function safely for everyone. And NHTSA and the U.S. Department of Transportation as a whole, and this is important because obviously we deal with all of the modes of transportation, have embraced the safe system approach wholeheartedly. And for us to turn the tide on traffic fatalities, we'll need everyone to get on board with the safe system approach. I'm going to quote the National Roadway Safety Strategy. We face a crisis on our roadways. It is both unacceptable and, really importantly, that's my editorializing, solvable. Solving it will take all of us working together in new ways with really great new resources and with new benchmarks. So Barbara's already mentioned, but I want to highlight some of the new approaches that are contained in the bipartisan infrastructure law, or the bill, as we call it, the bill that is the bill, and its vast new resources for traffic safety, including for NHTSA, and it's just extraordinary to have those resources now. As Barbara mentioned, the law increases our overall budget by more than 50%. I do like to point out that our budget previously was lower in real terms than it was in the 1980s, when vehicles were a lot simpler. So this is going to allow us to make historic investments in vehicle and road safety. It gives us the resources to begin to implement the safe system approach in the National Roadway Safety Strategy. But with these resources come new responsibilities and new scrutiny to ensure that we are delivering for the American taxpayer. We need to ensure that our spending and grants do what they're designed to do, which is to make our roads safer for everyone who uses them. We need to bend the curve on traffic deaths all the way to zero. This is the direction from Congress, and NHTSA is committed to that mandate. Those of you who work for states, and many of you do in the audience, are really on the front line. And one thing I think that's really important to stress that we don't always talk about with the safe system approach is that some of the tools can be implemented more quickly than others. For example, and this is not the quick part, making vehicles safer by adopting new vehicle safety standards is a crucial part of the safe system approach. But it also takes years for standards for us to develop those standards, and they're only implemented on new cars. All the cars that remain on the road don't have those new gadgets, new safety systems. So the safety benefits from technological changes can take a long time to implement. Other tools can be implemented more quickly. Adding a crosswalk at an unsafe intersection doesn't take years to construct, although I acknowledge that it can take a lot of red tape to unravel and so forth. But nevertheless, it's a much quicker approach than building a new road, for example. And focusing on the behavioral obstacles to safe driving, which we're focused on here, can happen quickly and can deliver real and immediate results for all road users. That's why you as highway safety officers and others working with the states are so important. As you know, the bipartisan infrastructure law also moves us to triennial highway safety plans, which expands the planning horizon, triples it really. The bill also requires meaningful public participation, and it has a focus on equity. Performance targets will also help demonstrate constant or improved performance. We know that many stakeholders have strong thoughts on some of the changes that Congress enacted into law. But as we think about how to implement the bipartisan infrastructure law, it's important to keep in mind that number, 42,915. That's the number of people killed in 2021. That's the most people killed in 16 years. The crisis on our nation's roads is growing, or maybe it's stabilizing. Hopefully it's going to go down. But our solutions need to evolve and grow as well. This is a moment. It's a moment that requires new strategies and new approaches. And with your assistance, the tools and resources provided by the bipartisan infrastructure law will help to deliver them. We all need to take a hard and unflinching look at our programs and project performance. If an activity isn't delivering, then it's time to see what we can do differently. Our investments in these life-saving efforts need to be impactful, and they need to be results-driven, and they need to be consistent with the law. I have to say that as the former chief counsel of NHTSA and a lawyer. While there are many who are meeting targets, there are others with greater opportunities for improvement. I think all of us can improve. And I want to say that NHTSA is examining its own role. We're looking for places where we can provide more assistance, where we can share best practices more effectively, where we can help analyze data to help develop solutions. Our regional administrators are committed to getting out in the field to meet, to see the problems firsthand, to help analyze potential solutions. I want to say this strongly. We are here to be your partner. We've talked a lot about partnership this morning, and I want to just make clear that NHTSA is one of those partners. So to help achieve our safety goals and guide the Highway Safety Grant Program, NHTSA has issued a Notice of Proposed Rulemaking, NPRM in federal speak, for uniform guidance for state highway safety grant programs. The NPRM responds to the feedback we received during the May public meetings and the request for comments. I want to say I was extraordinarily gratified to see the number of comments that we received and also the range of organizations of people who commented. I have read every word of the NPRM, and I'm heartened to see the direction it has taken. Though, of course, it's not final, and that's really important to stress. If there are things about it that you think could be improved, things about it with which you disagree, you have until Halloween to comment. So easy date to remember, for another 45 days approximately. We encourage everyone to weigh in. We read every comment. We respond to those comments. Sometimes we change rules, draft rules in response to those comments. And we're especially interested in hearing from those who work closely with populations that are disproportionately affected by traffic fatalities. So the NPRM reflects just one way that the bipartisan infrastructure law requires us to do things differently. The law is also an opportunity and, in fact, a mandate to address the fatality crisis by bringing everyone to the table. The bill says, and I quote, meaningful public participation and engagement from affected communities, particularly those most significantly impacted by traffic crashes resulting in injuries and fatalities, need to be brought into the process. The idea here is that safety and equity go hand in hand. We can't have a system that delivers safety only for some. We've just finalized some research. It was just recently put on our website, and our data show that, at least preliminarily, the data show that road risk is riskier for Black, American Indian, and Alaska Native travelers than for white people. The disparity persists even when accounting for the amount and type of travel. We also recently published a study examining gender disparities in crashes with similar physical impacts. You probably all know that men die in greater numbers than women in traffic crashes, but women face slightly greater risks of death in crashes, in like crashes. We are also researching whether women and men face different risks of serious injury, and we'll release those results when ready. So the fatality risk for all vehicle occupants is significantly reduced in newer vehicles, starting as early as model year 2000. And the disparity between risk for women and men, again, that like crash disparity, drops dramatically in newer vehicles. The overall gap for women in the front seat drops from 19.9% in model years 1960 to 1999, to 2.9% for 2015 to 2020 vehicles, almost eliminated, not quite there yet. The risk is slightly higher for female passengers compared to male passengers, but it's significantly lower than it was in older vehicles. NHTSA safety measures, including stronger vehicle standards, airbags, seat belts, et cetera, have helped close the gap and have protected countless lives. But we need to do more work. When I said NHTSA is examining everything we do, we need to do more work to eliminate the disparities that remain. And again, we're going to also be focusing on injuries and whether they're injury differentials and what we can do about them to the degree that we can document them. So a safe system approach acknowledges historical disparities and seeks to eliminate them. That starts by listening to the voices of those who use the roads, particularly in communities of color, unrepresented communities, and people with disabilities. As I've already said, the bipartisan infrastructure law reinforces this by requiring meaningful public participation. Public participation is not meant to be an inconvenience, but a necessity. It can't be an afterthought. Equity needs to be woven into the entire process. So data helps address equity by helping identify the groups that are overrepresented in crash fatalities. I already described a little bit of that data. The causes of crashes, their location and potential solutions. Data can seem like a really nerdy thing, but it's so important for helping us understand where the problems are and how to address them. And I'm happy to say that the bipartisan infrastructure law provides additional funds for 2 critical NCSA crash data programs, and our head of NCSA is here with us today. These programs will help states modernize their systems to allow full electronic data transfers and for NHTSA to expand its crash investigation sampling system to gain greater insights into emerging safety challenges on our nation's roads. In doing so, we have a real opportunity for all of us to better understand the trends on our roads. Electronic data transfers are much more efficient and allow earlier, more timely access to data. After all, if we're going to reverse the trends, we need to know what's going on and who's affected the most, and data can help us do that. So before I conclude, I want to leave you with this. In 2021, 1 person was killed in a traffic crash every 12 minutes, according to NHTSA estimates. That's 1 life ended in the time it took me to deliver these remarks. And as I said earlier, and I'll emphasize again, those we lose are more than statistics. They're a parent, a child, a spouse, a partner, a sibling, or a best friend. We cannot accept the deaths of more than 42,000 people a year as the new normal. If ever there was a time for action, it's now. The crisis demands urgent action. Doing what worked 5, 10, or 15 years ago isn't enough. So I urge you to work comprehensively and urgently together with partners to implement strategies that embrace the safe system approach, to set standards and benchmarks, to invite everyone to the table, to infuse equity from beginning to end, and to commit wholeheartedly to the day when we can see no more traffic deaths. And I commit to working hand in hand with you. Thank you very much.
And Acting Administrator, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here with us today, being here with us yesterday and today. Your passion, your leadership. We really look forward to the continued partnership with NHTSA. I also want to just express gratitude for your team. And again, the passion and work of your team. I see my regional director here in the room, who is just a great mentor for me and a tremendous resource. So thank you again. Means a great deal to us that you're here today. A lot of what you said, was a lot of what I said yesterday in my remarks to our body relative to, the bad news. I mean, there's no doubt we're experiencing bad news, but there's also some good news we need to consider. And I think a lot of that was certainly outlined in your remarks in terms of the sense of urgency, the increased funding levels, alignment, arguably, I would say alignment at the federal, state, and local levels around a new approach, a safe system approach, and that of understanding that safety needs to apply to all and that equity is a critical part of that. So again, I thank you so much for your remarks today. All right, next up for us, I have the privilege now of introducing our next speaker. It's Mauricio Peña, the Chief Safety Officer at Waymo, an autonomous driving technology company with a mission to make it safe and easy for people and things to get where they're going. GHSA is partnering with Waymo to help educate the public about this technology. Is excited to share that we'll be working with them in 2023 to develop and pilot an AV training program for first responders. As CSO, Mauricio oversees all of Waymo's safety efforts and teams, including system safety, field safety, fleet operations safety, and safety research. Mauricio is also responsible for continuing to advance Waymo's safety methodologies and road safety performance data and fostering openness and transparency around these methodologies with industry stakeholders. Prior to joining Waymo, Mauricio spent over 20 years designing, testing, and deploying complex systems at Virgin Orbit and Boeing. Please welcome Mauricio Peña.
Good morning. Thank you very much for that introduction. As was mentioned, my name is Mauricio Peña, Chief Safety Officer for Waymo, and I'm really excited to be with you today to talk to you about our technology, our approach to safety, and share some interesting research that we have been working on. Okay, so before we get going, I want to give you a little bit of background about our company. We are building the world's most experienced driver. And what we call the Waymo Driver really is that core technology, that combination, hardware and software that together enable autonomous driving. And we use the Waymo Driver to power our product lines. Waymo Via for trucking and local delivery, and Waymo One, the world's first fully autonomous ride-hailing service, which is operating today in Chandler, Arizona. And so what that means is that any member of the public in Chandler can hail a ride using their smartphone. The Waymo vehicle arrives, there's no one behind the wheel, and it takes our rider to their destination safely and comfortably. And now we have expanded our fully autonomous ride-hailing operations to downtown Phoenix with select members of the public and to San Francisco for our employees. So as we deployed the technology more widely, safety remains and is always our top priority. And we are committed to publicly sharing our safety approach and our safety performance on the roads. So that's why what we're going to cover today will be primarily based on a series of safety technical papers that we have published over the last couple of years. We're going to talk about our safety methodologies and readiness determination. We're going to share some data on our roadway performance, and then we're going to talk about how the Waymo Driver performs in high severity scenarios. Many speakers today have highlighted the roadway safety crisis that we're facing. Worldwide, over 50 million people are injured every year, and over 1.3 million people lose their lives on the roads. And unfortunately, about half of them are vulnerable road users, pedestrians, cyclists, motorcyclists. And we at Waymo believe that autonomous driving holds tremendous promise to improve our road safety performance and save lives. Our safety philosophy is simple: to reduce traffic injuries and fatalities by driving safely and responsibly, and carefully manage risk as we scale our operations. Our philosophy is not new. We have been developing the Waymo Driver and our safety methodologies for over a decade. But as we develop our technology and deploy it more widely, we know that we have to be transparent with the communities in which we serve. So that's why in 2017, we were the first AV developer to publish an AV safety report. And in October 2020, we went even further. We published 2 safety technical papers. The first one outlined our safety methodologies that we use for our readiness determination. So that is the process that we use to ensure that we are safe prior to deploying our Waymo One service. We also provided data on any safety relevant event, collision, or contact in millions of miles of autonomous driving on public roads in Phoenix, Arizona. So we believe that these 2 papers represented a milestone in transparency, and it was the first time that an AV technology developer provided that level of detail and that insight into our safety approach and our technology. Now, let me talk to you a little bit about our safety readiness determination, our safety framework. And it really is a portfolio of methodologies that work together to provide us a comprehensive, a holistic view of the safety of the system. They are complementary approaches that evaluate different elements. We use industry best practices, but we also target the specific safety challenges that is posed by autonomous driving. Now, we believe in continuous improvement. So we consistently evaluate our methodologies to improve them, and we iterate based on data. Now, what I talked about a portfolio of methodologies, what I really mean is we use a layered approach to safety. And so we have 3 fundamental layers that we look at. We have the hardware layer that really evaluates our platform. We want to make sure that we have a highly performant, safe platform. We then evaluate what we call the behavior layer, which ensures that the Waymo driver is driving safely and responsibly. And then we evaluate our operations layer to ensure that we are deploying the system safely using rigorous processes. Now, these layers are not evaluated in isolation. They really work together. They complement each other. And they really are governed under our safety governance framework. And what we have found is that they have produced very good results out in the field. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about next. The second paper that I mentioned a couple minutes ago is Waymo's public road safety performance. We released data of every collision and minor contact event in over 6 million miles of autonomous driving in the Phoenix, Arizona region. Now, most of those miles, we had a human operator behind the wheel, but the Waymo driver was actually driving. And 65,000 of those miles were in fully autonomous mode, meaning that there was nobody behind the wheel. And when we talk about minor contact events, this could be as minor as a pedestrian walking onto the side of a stationary Waymo vehicle. Now, we not only provided data on the events that actually happened, but also data on events we predicted would have happened if the human operator had not disengaged autonomous driving. And we're able to do that through simulation. In fact, we call it counterfactual simulation. So we have a very high fidelity simulator that helps us evaluate data, different scenarios, ensure that we are looking at a particular event from different angles, different versions of the event to give us a rich understanding of what's happening. We also use our simulator to evaluate our software. It allows us to test different versions of our software to ensure that we are able to detect any changes in performance as we evaluate the system. And one of the things that I mentioned previously is our ability to really understand the different permutations of a particular scenario. Now, here are some of our key findings. In over 6 million miles of autonomous driving, we reported 47 contact events. 18 of them actually happened, and 29 of them were simulated or were predicted to have happened if our operator would not have disengaged autonomous driving. But I want to point out that none of those 47 events were serious in nature. And also, most of those 47 events, including the 8 most significant ones, involved some sort of rule violation or error by another road user. So one example is we were hit from behind while waiting at a red light. Now, notably, the Waymo driver avoided a few failure modes or a few collision modes that are common for human drivers, such as striking a fixed object or departing the roadway. And so I mentioned those two because those two collision modes alone account for about 27% or urban safety fatalities. Now, another thing to mention is that high severity events are very rare, so we didn't expect to see them in our data. So for context, in human driving, we would need billions of miles for us to be able to have a statistically significant set of data that is representative, which we can draw conclusions. So in order to evaluate the performance of the Waymo driver in those high severity events, we rely on simulation. And then that's what I'm going to talk to you about now. We recently conducted a study that evaluated how the Waymo driver would have performed in a series of high severity crashes, fatal crashes that occurred in over a 10-year period in the Phoenix, Arizona region. So what we did through our simulation is we replaced the Waymo driver in the role of the vehicle that initiated the crash, and we also replaced the Waymo driver in the role of the responder vehicle. And what we were trying to find out on the initiator part is, can the Waymo driver prevent this accident from happening to begin with? And on the responder side, we were trying to determine if the Waymo driver is able to take evasive maneuver to avoid or mitigate the crash, and if the Waymo driver is able to accurately predict the behavior of the opposing vehicle. Let me give you more details on the results. But before we go there, I want to point out that every scenario that we simulated is based on a real life crash. You can see here the blur picture of that real event. The initiator of this crash was traveling at a very high rate of speed, was intoxicated. The responder vehicle was traveling at the speed limit, and that driver unfortunately lost their life. And I want to also say that we take this very seriously. So every reconstruction, every simulation that you see meant that somebody lost their life on our roads. And the first case that I'm going to present to you is that crash that you just saw on the last slide. So what we do is we partner with a third-party company that utilizes best practices to help us reconstruct the event. We take that reconstruction and then we place it into our high-fidelity simulator. So as you can see here, this is in our simulator how the event played out in real life. The initiator vehicle is traveling from the bottom up on the page, and the responder vehicle is coming from the right to left. In real life, the initiator vehicle was speeding and ran the red light. The responder vehicle was not able to see him and could not avoid the crash. And once again, in this scenario, in real life, that responder, the person, passed away. Here we show the first case. This is the same event, but now we place the Waymo driver in the role of the initiator, once again traveling from the bottom of the screen up, The Waymo Driver is shaded in white. And as we would expect, the Waymo Driver follows the rules of the road and stops at the red light, preventing the accident altogether. Now, probably the more interesting case is the case of the responder vehicle. So we place the Waymo Driver in the role of the responder. And once again, the responder vehicle is coming from the right of the screen. But in this case, the Waymo Driver is able to accurately predict that the initiator is going to run the red light, slows down, and allows the initiator to pass, avoiding the crash altogether. Let me give you another reconstruction example. In this case, the initiator vehicle is traveling from the left side on the screen, traveling right. The responder vehicle is traveling the other way. The initiator vehicle is the one shaded in white. The driver was also intoxicated, traveling at a high rate of speed, and veers the vehicle onto the oncoming lane and hits the responder vehicle nearly head on. In this case, the responder driver also passed away. We did the same simulation, but now we placed the Waymo Driver in the role of the initiator. And once again, as we would expect, the Waymo Driver drives at the speed limit and stays within the designated lane of travel, thereby avoiding the collision altogether. Now, again, the probably more interesting case is the Waymo Driver as the responder vehicle. Again, traveling from the right to left. In this case, the Waymo Driver is able to accurately predict the path of the initiator vehicle, and it takes evasive action. Specifically, slows down and veers to the left and avoids the crash altogether. So for us, this was a very important set of results. It was a big deal because we feel that if the Waymo Driver had been involved in any role in these crashes, we would have saved lives. Now, here are the results. In total, we simulated 73 crashes. In some cases, there was only one vehicle in the crash. In some cases, it involved two vehicles. So that was a total of 91 simulations. In the role of the initiator, the Waymo Driver avoided 100% of the crashes. In the role of the responder, the Waymo Driver avoided or mitigated 100% of the crashes, except for 3 where we were struck from behind and no evasive maneuver was possible. And now when we say we mitigated the crash, that means that we reduced the likelihood of injury anywhere from about 1.5% to 15 times. So that was a very significant result for us that allowed us to see that the Waymo Driver in either role, initiator or responder, is able to effectively avoid or mitigate crashes. Again, why does this matter? As we discussed earlier, roadway fatalities have increased over the last 5 years, and we believe that the Waymo Driver, taken together, our performance in high severity scenarios, our roadway safety performance that we discussed previously, represent evidence that autonomous driving can have a significant positive impact on roadway safety performance. And now we want to bring those safety benefits to more places. As I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, Waymo One is the world's first fully autonomous ride-hailing service, has been operating in the Chandler area of Arizona since October 2020. And we have been providing autonomous rides there even earlier, before we made the service commercially available. Now, that means that we have served thousands of rides to thousands of people. And now we are expanding our service to downtown Phoenix. We're expanding that service to select members of the public, in which we call a trusted program, before we go into full commercialization. And we are also providing fully autonomous ride-hailing rides to our employees in San Francisco. And that is our incremental approach to deploying our service there as well. So now they join the folks in Chandler and they enjoy fully autonomous rides in their daily lives. Now, I want to close by also mentioning our new partnership with GHSA in developing AV training for our first responders. That's law enforcement, firefighters, emergency medical professionals. We understand that AV training for first responders is not readily available today, and we are excited to work with GHSA to fill that need. And in fact, we're going to use the GHSA report that was released in 2021 that outlining strategy for curricula for that type of training. So we're really, really excited for this partnership. And I really want to thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today and to share with you what we at Waymo are doing to improve roadway safety and save lives. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mauricio. Well, that concludes our general session. There will now be a break in the exhibit hall until, actually, we are a little early. Look at that. You're going to get a bigger break. Please be sure to visit each booth and talk with exhibitors, as we couldn't have such an amazing conference without them. If you haven't already done so, please check out the exhibit hall. It's in the Marriott ballrooms. The break will be followed by our first block of workshops. Then I hope to see you at our Monday luncheon sponsored by Cambridge Mobile Telematics that will feature Bill Bratton. Please remember to post on social media and share your annual meeting experiences using our hashtag GHSA 2022. Thank you, and please have a great conference.